Hello everyone and welcome back to another AFK journey video. In this video we're going to be talking about the best magic charms for Mikola, who is the new rate up recruitment hero. And when we take a look at magical charms and try to decide which are the optimal ones, we first have to take a look at what will ultimate power be granting Mikola and what will skill power be granting her, because in the new season these stats from the charms are going to grant a buff to their abilities. So the ultimate power would increase the amount of healing wave, the healing amount from her healing wave, which is triggered periodically after Mikola deals 300% of her initial attack as damage to enemies. And when we take a look at skill power, this will increase the attack buff for all of her allies when she is in control of the honor arena, because at level 4 currently it would be 20% attack boost, but if you can get enough skill power, 3 of them, then you're going to increase this up to 23% attack boost for all of her allies. And along with that, it will also increase the healing amount from her vigorous call to a pretty high, from 190% to 250% with full skill power. And this is on a 12-second cooldown, and it would go even lower than that if you have haste and she provides haste to herself, and if you have other haste buffers like Shakir, Damien, this will go down in cooldown. So for that reason, I really think like skill power is going to be the best choice for her, because not only will it increase the attack buff for your allies, it will also increase her healing, which can be cast at a pretty low cooldown if you have a lot of haste buff onto her. And the Dauntless Hymn, it requires her to deal a certain amount of damage to get this trigger. And from my experience, from the testing I've done so far on day 1, it seems like her damage output is not super high, and she's more of that supportive, like buffing role for increasing the damage that your team can deal with her attack buff. And this vigorous call seems to be her major form of healing. So if you can increase that with skill power, basically you get 2 things by increasing skill power. So for that reason, I really think skill power will probably be the best magical charms for her. And if we take a look at the thumbs up charms, both of them do include skill power. Now the next question will be, out of these 2 thumbs up charms, before we take a look at all of the other ones, would you prefer to have attack or HP? And if it were a backline support, like a long range support, maybe you could decide to go for attack to increase your healing amount. But because Mikola is a frontline melee supporter with a range of 1, I think you need that HP for that tankiness to allow her to survive for longer. Because if you're using her in arena, you are going to need to protect her. She does take aggro from enemies and can take like damage reflect from Thorin. You need to have a lot of healing, and she needs to be tanky. So definitely I would say go for HP percent and skill power. I think that is the optimal magic charm for her. But definitely if you don't have like enough to craft them and you end up getting arcane charm, this would also be good. It would increase again her skill power and increase her attack. Another really good option would be sorcery charm, because this will give you skill power and ultimate strength, so more healing periodically from her ultimate, and also the same benefits as the skill power, but this wouldn't give her any combat stats like the other 2 charms. And I think that HP is kind of needed for her just to survive a little bit better. But this is of course only for Supreme Arena. For regular arena, these charms will not apply. So it's Supreme Arena and Dream Realm which you're only considering when deciding on these charms. And then we have Wizard Charm, not a bad option either, increasing her healing. However, I don't think this is the greatest for her specifically, because her healing output is going to be a lot less than Smokey. And we can take a look at this, but if you take a look at your Dream Realm top scoring teams, if anyone is using Mikola, you'll see the healing output is more from Smokey, and so she doesn't have as much healing ability as, for example, Smokey or even Damien. So I do not think the healing is necessarily the best for her, but it would not be bad. Of course, none of these charms are necessarily bad. And then moving on to the Iron Wall charm, this one will give physical and magical defense and crit resistance, so this is good for her to be able to survive a little bit better in the front line. And now let's kind of try to decide. In my opinion so far, I think Mikola is best used as a Dream Realm support to increase your damage output. Usually when there is, for example, a need to run Coco in your team, you can replace Coco for Mikola, and Mikola will increase the damage of your team by more than having Coco on it, for example, because she will increase the attack of all allies by up to 23% if you have all of the skill power on her. And that is really important. And in the Dream Realm, you're usually going to have control of the Honor Arena. The only time it can be kind of contested is if it's the Skyclops Dream Realm boss, where they have the minions respawn, which do count for enemies in the honor arena, but if you kill them fast enough, from the testing I've seen, you still maintain control over that honor arena. But really, I think Dream Realm is where she will shine, and so if you can increase the attack that she's buffing up your team by, that is really her best use, so that you can just get a higher score on the Dream Realm boss. But the other use is the Supreme Arena, maybe in Mauler-oriented teams with Shakir and Damien, in which case you would want to have tanky combat stats, so maybe even for that you could go for something like a lot of physical and magical defense and crit resistance, or maybe even HP and physical and magical defense. So this one, for example here, this Vigorous Charm, this is going to be for maximum like tanky stats. This is for mainly Supreme Arena, where you do not want her to get killed so easily and survive for longer. And really, when we're talking about Supreme Arena, this may be one of the best charms you can run, because the fact that she is a melee supporter, you need her to survive for as long as possible. And so if anything gives her tanky stats, that is going to be usually the most value for her. So giving her something like attack will not be too valuable, because her damage output is kind of low. And also, attack would improve the amount of her healing, but it will come at the cost of being less tanky, and the tankiness is more needed. You would want her to survive for longer, rather than to have a little bit of more attack and die faster. So that is why the charms that have attack, life drain, I do not think are going to be the best options. But overall, I do think skill power is really good. And apart from that, I would think the Vigorous Charm would be really good if you're using her more for Supreme Arena, where you want her to survive for longer in the front line. And but definitely, I think the all-time best charm is the Insight Charm, because it will give you the skill power to survive, to give more attack to your allies, and have more effectiveness of your healing from your Vigorous Call, and more HP to tank out the front line a little bit better. So I do recommend going for those charms if you want to try to build Mikola as well as possible. Currently on my server, no one has a Mikola team in the top ranking leaderboards. But there is one Mikola team right here, and they usually will run Mikola alongside Smokey, and we can take a look at the healing contributed from the two of them. And the healing, as you can tell from Smokey, is way outperforming Mikola, and this is what I mean. So you're not going to basically be able to expect Mikola to compete with the healing of Smokey. Smokey is still the all-time best healer. He has the most healing output if he can trigger his aura on all of your team. There's no hero which can compete with him. And Smokey also gives attack buff to everyone within the aura, up to 23% as well, just like Mikola is giving. But the advantage of running Mikola along with Smokey is then, not only are you getting the 23% attack bar boost for all allies from Smokey, you're going to get that 23% boost from Mikola as well. So when you need like another supporter slot like Coco for survivability, Mikola will replace that and become better. However, for example, like if we're taking a look at my top teams like on my server right now, you would have to think, who would be a good replacement for Mikola here? You would not really want to replace any form of your damage dealers like Scarlita, Marilee, Lily May. Replacing them for Mikola will not be a good option. Replacing Smokey is again not a good option, because Smokey gives the basically the same attack buff as Mikola is giving, and also Smokey deals more damage output from his ultimate cast compared to Mikola. So it would only be maybe you replace Rainier and try Mikola, see if the attack buff will increase your damage more than the debuff that Rainier has to increase the damage the boss receives, but I don't think that would be the case. So it's mainly going to be reserved for those bosses where Coco is always run, and then maybe people can run Smoking and Mikola together, replace Coco, and just have the rest of your damage here. I do think this is what is going to happen. I think that Coco is going to be replaced by Mikola in these Dream Realm bosses where Coco is a necessity, like for example Alpha Bear and Lone Gaze, because if you can survive with the Mikola in the team instead of the Coco, your damage output will just be higher, because Mikola will provide more damage to your team than a Coco would, and that is why it will be kind of replaced. And that might also mean for the earlier game, when you are not at the end game boss team. A lot of people ran Coco in a lot of different Dream Realm bosses for the survivability. And so running Mikola instead of Coco in the early game can be a viable option. So people who have not hit like the endless boss mode, maybe they're level 300 or level 400 on their heroes for the new season, then maybe running that Mikola instead of a Coco in the slot will just increase your damage output. But as of right now, she is not replacing Smokey. Maybe Necrodrake and Snowstomper, she could have a place, because people have mentioned that her ultimate is not interruptible. So for example, it should be able to continue through the Snow Stomper skills that he will cast onto you. We'll have to wait and see and test that. If that is the case, maybe then she would be a good option, maybe replacing Thorin and going for Mikola, for example, keeping the other damage dealers, or maybe, but in Necrodraken, I think probably will still not be a great option because you want movable heroes in this mode. And Mikola doesn't really move around the map, she will just run up to the front line along with your other melee units. So definitely I think it's going to be interesting to see which where Mikola is going to shine, but I do think she will have some Dream Realm applications. And for Supreme Arena, I think she's going to be a really good addition to a Mauler team, along with her, Shakira, and like, I love Damien. I did some day one testing of Mikola because All Great Gamer let us do summons for him on his account, and we got Paragon 1 on Mikola, and then we did some arena testing, and the team I liked the most was Shakira, Damien, Mikola, Scarlita team. And so I think Damien is really good to run with them because you need some healing for the Mikola. So either it has to be a Smokey or like a Damien, because Mikola's healing alone is not enough to keep her alive and all of your team alive. So you're going to need to run a healer along with her. Maybe even Haywen, maybe Damien, maybe Rowan, or maybe Smokey. All good options. So anyway, I'm excited to do more testing. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. And I do think that the magical charm that is best is the skill power and HP percent to increase her tankiness and also increase the attack buff and the healing amount from a vigorous call. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. That is going to be it for this one. And I'll hopefully see you guys in the next video. And until then, everyone, peace out for now. And thank you for watching.